A few weeks ago, I did a video breaking down my 2024 financials for my print farm that's underneath my garage here. And you guys really liked that video and you appreciated my transparency in that video. And well, I appreciate your appreciation for that transparency. So we're gonna keep the train rolling here, and I'm gonna start answering you guys' questions you had on that video, because some of you really had some insightful thoughts on it and really good questions that I think warrant an answer. So I'm not answering these questions in any certain order. I actually just took the list of comments from the video, gave it to ChatGPT. I said, group these questions together, and kind of gives me a bullet point list that I can go down and try to answer. Our first question, what do you pay yourself? Does it come out of the cost of goods or the net income number? So if I was paying an employee whose only job it was to print the items, package them, give them to the post office, that labor cost would come out of the cost of goods sold. However, for me, since I'm the CEO of this business, and the actual print farm is just one revenue source of 3D Design Bros, the company as a whole, my salary that I take comes out of this net income number. But again, this is just for the print farm. We have our models division where we license our models. We have 3D Print Force. We have YouTube, right? So all those revenues funnel in to one big revenue number. And then I have just regular operations costs for running the business. One of those line items would be my labor as CEO of the company. Following up to that, where is labor factored into the cost of goods as expense? You built the cost of labor into the price, but you should still show the labor as an expense. So yeah, it's a good question. Why don't I have a labor line in here? Well, it's because yes, I'm building in labor into my pricing, but I'm actually not experiencing that expense yet because I don't have an employee who I am paying a wage or salary to create the products. And like I said just a minute ago, my labor is coming out of operations because I do a lot more than just fulfill orders and product stuff. All right, moving on. What's crazy is you have numbers that show you making over 100K, but you make almost less than a third of that because of fees. You should dive into how to lower your fees. Yeah, I mean, that's a valid, I guess, statement, not really a question, right? But it's a valid statement, and I think that's why a lot of people, after starting their journey on Etsy, ultimately they do try to kind of pivot off of it to their own Shopify site or even their own custom built website that has a store function on it. To me, it's a cost of doing business because I wouldn't have any of these printed revenue sales without these advertising and the fees, the 15,000 in fees from Etsy. This number wouldn't exist if I wasn't willing to pay these numbers. So to me, it's just kind of cost of doing business, and of course, I try to do things to pivot revenue to other things, but really the Etsy shop still is the backbone of my shop. As much as I try to get people to buy from Shopify or elsewhere, there's an element of trust that comes with Etsy, and people know they can go on Etsy, they can buy with confidence, and if they have a problem, they can go to the seller, but even if the seller doesn't do what they want, they still have that other backfall of Etsy maybe stepping in and getting them the service they need. Whoa, this thing rolls. Big thanks to the sponsor of today's video, Flexispot. What I'm sitting in is their OC6 big and tall office chair, and it's awesome. This chair has all the standards that we've come to expect from an ergonomic office chair, but it also has a trick up its sleeve. Running a 3D printing business means I spend a lot of time at my desk, whether it's designing new models, making Etsy listings, or even editing these YouTube videos. All that's done right here, so having an office chair that can support me is a must, and the OC6 500-pound capacity, I don't gotta worry about a thing. The setup was a breeze, and with the included instructions, you should be good to go in no more than 30 minutes. But to be honest, if you have any experience with an office chair, the setup will take you much less time than that. I was also excited that this chair came with the mesh seat. Some of my past chairs had the foam seat, and let's be honest, the foam gets a little warm in places you don't want it to get a little warm. So having the mesh has been a nice change. I definitely fancy myself a bit of an office tech and furniture nerd, and I've had a lot of different office chairs over the years. Not only does Flexispot deliver on the comfort, but visually, the OC6 looks great in my setup. Now, the OC6 has a secret, and it's actually the retractable footrest. I've never had a chair that has a footrest, but I gotta be honest, I find myself using it all the time. Office chairs and offices in general aren't just for work anymore. For many of us, they double as entertainment centers. So whether you're on a video call with friends or maybe kicking back for an after-work game session, the footrest comes in clutch. Flexispot has been a friend of the channel for some time, and I even have one of their motorized standing desks. Like their desks, the chair is genuinely well built. And in a time when we see office chairs pushing that $800 price point, it's refreshing to see a company providing a good quality chair at a decent price. In fact, at the time of recording this, Flexispot was offering a 32% discount on Amazon, making this office chair only $299. So whether you need a well-supporting office chair or maybe one you can kick back in, make sure to check the links below for all of the Flexispot products. All right, we got a few questions here about electricity. I can't see electricity costs. Where is your internet and electricity costs in running your 3D printing business? Thanks for the info, very educational. Interested in what % electricity is of your expenses. So yeah, again, I don't have electricity in this cost. Again, I account for it in my pricing, but I don't have a dedicated panel in my print shop here just for the print farm. So I operate out of my house, which means my electricity bill contains both the print farm as well as just my personal electricity usage and internet usage, which is why for me, I account for my electricity when I file my taxes. So I get the electricity cost expense built in when I file my taxes. So I do benefit from the expense. I'm not paying taxes on, this full net income number because I'm able to take out my taxes and my internet, at least the portion the business uses, at the time when I file my taxes. All right, next question. Can you explain why you pay shipping? So I pay shipping because I have to ship all the products out. So I don't offer free shipping, right? Every buyer, part of this 126 revenue number is shipping costs. So every buyer that buys from me, part of their order is a shipping fee. So they pay me the shipping fee, I collect it, and then I turn around and I actually pay to ship out the product. So I tend to make a little bit money on shipping. So I think my average shipping cost to send the product out is $4.15. Then I have some boxes and packaging material. So my all-in is like $5 to send most of my products out, and my kind of flat rate standard shipping is $5.75. So I make around 75 cents. Sometimes it's probably less, sometimes it might be more. So maybe 50 to 75 cents per package I make. But yeah, I have to send it out. So even though I collect the shipping from the buyer when they make the order, ultimately I have to go out and buy the label and send it to them, and then I'm able to keep that delta of the difference there. All right, here's a good one. On expenses, I don't see taxes. Is the $147K after the tax you pay on the items, or is that before it? So, like I said, this revenue is from Etsy. So Etsy actually charges the buyer sales tax when they purchase it. So the sales tax that is needed to be recorded is already done, and Etsy handles that for you. Another benefit of selling on Etsy, they take care of that for you. So the only tax I need to worry about is like my personal income tax, or my business tax when I file my business returns on any of the leftover profit, right? So I have my revenue, the sales tax is already out of that, and then I remove all my expenses from my business, and I'm left with a number that I get charged tax on, and I pay those taxes at the end of the year. Now, I pay them quarterly as a small business who generates revenue, right? The IRS wants you to pay your taxes quarterly, so my accountant has set up a quarterly amount that I pay based off of historical income numbers, so that way by the end of the year, the goal is that I've actually paid my taxes along the way and I'm not hit with one big tax bill. But yeah, sales tax is already taken into account for when they make the sale on Etsy. Income tax I'll pay at the end of the year after I'm able to deduct all my expenses for my business. All right, another really good question here. How much of your time would you say invested for the majority as a whole for 2024? Could you work a 9 to 5 and still achieve the sales pricing at night? So I think they're asking could you still work a job and then also get these kind of numbers that I'm getting? And I think the short answer is yes. However, there's gonna be times of the year where it's easier to do that and harder to do that. So I would say on average, I only devote maybe 10, 12 hours to actually print farm specific tasks, right? Starting prints, clearing prints, packaging orders, communicating with people on Etsy through, messages, right, questions, stuff like that. Really, I can get all that done in about 12 hours a week. So yeah, I think it'd be very easy for somebody to work a job and produce these kind of numbers. For me, like I said, this is just one kind of pillar of my business. So my time is spent, across a lot of different things. But there is going to be a time of year where it's going to be difficult, right? So like Christmas time, Q4, December, depending on kind of what your job demands, for your 9-to-5 job, it's going to be tough to, fulfill orders, because this 126 number, like, it's my yearly number. I don't exactly recall what it was for 2024, but I know in 2023, because I did the math, like 68% of this came in November and December. So like, yeah, this is a yearly number, but a lot of it is coming at certain really busy times of the year. So I guess if your job allows you to like pull back a little bit, but then also give more other times of the year, and you have a little bit of flexibility there, I think if you're talking just average hours worked in a year, it could be done. How those hours fall though might prove to be difficult at certain times of year. Hope that makes sense. That was a great question. All right, so this is a fun question. What's your net hourly rate after all these expenses? So yeah, if we take a look here, so if I do like the 12 hours a week average that I said, that'd be 624 hours worked in a year. And if I divide the 47,903 divided by that 624, I'm left with $76.76 net hourly income, which is really good. I mean, that was a salaried 9-to-5 job, and you're talking gross numbers, you'd probably be at over $100 an hour of gross numbers to ultimately get that net 76. So yeah, I'm pretty pleased with that. Again, like I said, like, this isn't a full-time job for me. This is just one aspect of my full-time job down here. So the fact that one pillar of it is netting me $76 an hour is really good. And honestly, like, that's netting me way more than these YouTube videos are netting, right? So like, logically, I should be putting way more of my time into this, but of course I have aspirations of growing the YouTube channel, and we'll get into that with some later questions as well. But yeah, it's a great question. So about $76 an hour net is what the print farm is making me. All right, here's a really good question, because I get comments about this more than I do questions, so I appreciate that it's in the question form. Just came across your channel and have been looking at starting a business. Is the market super saturated though, is my concern. So you're gonna hear a lot of people say 3D printing is super saturated, right? And I can almost tell you, everyone who says that, one of two things have happened. They have either never tried to sell prints, and they have just convinced themselves that they can't do it before they even start, and the way they've convinced themselves of that is to say it's super saturated. Or they have started it, did not give it the time and dedication it needed, and to cover up for their failure, they have put the blame on market saturation. The market is not saturated. Every year I sell prints, I sell more than I did the year before, and that's even with giving my prints to my Thangs members with a commercial license to sell them. So I'm literally creating my own competition, yet every year I sell more and more and more. And everybody in our community that is selling prints, who is giving it the attention it needs and real effort, every year has sold more than the year before. So I believe we are still in the infancy of 3D printing. And to me, it's not like, oh, 3D printing is oversaturated. The question you need to ask yourself is, plastic products oversaturated? Because let me tell you, a lot of stuff is made out of plastic. So this idea that 3D printing is gonna somehow be, a niche market that becomes oversaturated, I just don't believe in, right? 3D printing is just a means of manufacturing. The question is plastic oversaturated? Is products being made out of plastic oversaturated? Clearly the answer is no there. So I think people get in trouble when they put too much emphasis on the 3D printing part. It's really the wrong question, and no, it's not oversaturated. All right, really great question here, because it's about Etsy ads, and everybody cares about Etsy ads. What was your return on the $28,000 in ad spend? I'm really on the fence about Etsy ads. So I've done a lot of videos, blog posts, webinars for different companies on Etsy ads. So go look. Maybe I'll take some my philosophy on Etsy ads, but essentially on that $28,000, I got about 90-ish, a little bit less maybe, the 90-ish thousand in revenue from ads. So really it's a big part of this number, right? Without paying this 28,000 in ads, this number would be not nearly what it is. And it's because my ads are 3x. So for every dollar I spend in ads, it returns me $3 in sales. And that is a very specific number. And like I said, if you're interested to hear my detailed thoughts on Etsy ads, go watch these other videos. I'll have them tagged below. And we'll dive deep into Etsy ads, why I want it to be 3x, how I figure out which products will get me the 3x, and why, even though I have 170 plus Etsy listings, I only advertise about 11 or 12 of them. So go check those videos out. All right, one last bonus question. Gotta do it, gotta stroke my ego a little bit. Everyone is asking about sales, but I'm curious, what products do you use for the beard? It's a great question. You're not gonna like my answer. All natural. Nothing gets put in this thing other than like soap when I take a shower, right? There's no beard balm. There's no sort of beard salt water mist that gets sprayed into it. This is just what God has blessed me with. All right, everybody, I appreciate all your questions. I hope these answers were valuable to you and that they were able to shed some light on maybe some of the darker corners of our financial breakdown here that we did. If you're looking for another video, Elegoo sent me an early access of their Centauri carbon printer, Centauri, still don't know how to say it, but their newest printer. I do a breakdown of it as far as, you know, if it would work well on a print farm. So if you're interested in that, make sure to check out that video here. We'll see you over there.